Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to Trinity Cathedral on this gorgeous spring day. We've really had a terrific run of luck in terms of lovely weather for this lovely musical series in recent weeks, so we hope that'll keep up, but thank you for sharing today with us. It's B minor day here in Trinity Cathedral. So we've got the violin partita in B minor, and Andrew's going to tell a little bit about that beautiful and somewhat unique piece in just a second. And we decided to swap the performing order from what it is in your program. So we're going to have violin first, organ second today. So Andrew will talk about the violin piece, and then I'll talk about the organ piece. And we're so glad you're here. We'll leave the baskets, as we've done lately, on the table and are, as always, deeply grateful for anything that you might be able to put in those baskets by way of support for this series, which has been going on for 45 years now, amazingly. So we're really, really thrilled to have our 6 weeks of Bach at the end of this season. It's an absolute joy for us as performers, and we hope to share that with you as the listeners. So without any further words from me, please join me in giving a very warm welcome to one of our iconic and beloved Brownbag performers, Andrew Sords.
Nice words, Todd. Not getting any. Thank you, Todd, for those wonderful words. It is so great to be back in this space. Thank you for choosing to spend your Wednesday lunch hour here. And Todd, let's not remember those days when, during the pandemic, when there was nobody here except for the camera. We have live audiences again, so thank you. This partita that you're about to hear is very different from the other 5 solo suites that Bach wrote for this instrument. The others sort of come in their a formula that repeats itself. In the sonatas, you have the slow, fast, the grave with the fugues, ending with a barn-burning allegro. The partitas come with a set of French dance movements. Well, the 3 of them do, but this one actually repeats. Each of the movements that you see in the program has a movement at twice the tempo, same chords, same structure, same key. This is the only one of the sonatas and partitas that actually comes in the same key throughout. But the inventive ways that Bach goes out about with each movement, I think you're going to enjoy it. Thank you for being here today.
So you have in your ear a good big dose of B minor there, and we'll continue that very special key with another sort of a three-part organ piece, all three movements being in B minor, just the same as the violin partita that you heard. Bach spent the last 27 years of his life in Leipzig, where he had multiple jobs and was always incredibly busy on so many fronts, musically, raising a large family, and much, much more. Interestingly, among his duties in Leipzig, normally those duties did not include playing the organ on a regular basis, nor composing for the organ. So in that last half or so of his life, he didn't write so much for the organ. But in the last 10 years, the last decade of his life, he clearly began, he realized that he was closer to the end than the beginning, and he chose to spend more of his time doing things that meant a lot to him musically. And among those activities was a return to composing for the organ. So he wrote in the last 10 years or so of his life a few quite magnificent preludes and fugues. Bach, throughout the course of his compositional life, kept expanding the size and the inventiveness of the form of the prelude and fugue. And these last three or four from his last years are all amazing pieces in that they are so creative, inventing, path-breaking, and rather large scale. So this prelude and fugue in B minor is one of those, and it's a big-boned piece, I think, by any standard. The prelude is full of interesting rhythms, sharp melodic contours, contrast and unity in equal proportion. It's quite a fabulous piece. Then in the middle, I've chosen to put in the slow movement from the E minor Trio Sonata, and that movement is in B minor. It's one of the most beautiful of the slow movements from the 6 Trio Sonatas. So Bach was always fascinated with these three-part things, and we have examples of a few of his manuscripts where he did exactly that. He'd have a prelude and fugue in one and then insert a slow movement in between them. So I've sort of taken his cue and done that with the B minor slow movement from the fourth Trio Sonata. And then comes the fugue in B minor, which I always think is a Bach probably smiling with a twinkle in his eye, because the initial subject of that fugue is a little bit vanilla, unusual for Bach. It appears to be vanilla. All stepwise motion, all eighth notes. And you think, well, that's very nice, a little bit bland. And then halfway through, he gives an injection of musical vitamins in the biggest and most amazing way with another musical idea, another subject that's all leaps and syncopated rhythms. It's in great contrast to that rather bland initial subject. And the two work beautifully together. And from the halfway point on, it's one of the most thrilling and irresistible fugues Bach ever wrote for the organ. So I hope you'll enjoy this three-part B minor creation. Next week, you can see the 3 remaining concerts on the back of your program, 3 more, May 3rd, 10th, and 17th. And next week we have Eric Wong, one of the fabulous violists that we're so lucky to have here in the Cleveland community, and he's going to play the G minor sonata. So get to hear the viola instead of violin next week. I want also to thank our sponsors for today's program, Sue Strew, in memory of her husband Rudy, and both Sue and Rudy have been pillars of Trinity Things musical here and the Brownbag series in particular for years and years. So many, many thanks, Sue, for your contribution today. Likewise, I want to thank the Ohio Arts Council and Cuyahoga Arts and Culture for their support of this particular series of 6 events, and Cuyahoga Arts and Culture for the entire Brownbag series. We're so lucky to have these wonderful arts supporting organizations here in Cuyahoga County and in the state of Ohio. Lastly, you've got in your program the little half-page sheets of survey. If you've not done one of those surveys in the last few weeks, we'd be very grateful if you would fill it out and give it to Emily on the table there on the way out. We really appreciate hearing from audience members. It's a big help to us in many ways. So thanks for all of the above. Enjoy 3-part B minor organ music here. Next week, bring beautiful weather with you once again.
Okay.